most brands and advertisers are scaling their campaigns the wrong way, which is making them lose out on tens of thousands of dollars every single month. And in this video, I'm going to go through the best strategy in what you can use in order to scale your campaigns the right way and to make sure that you actually retain the ROI and the results that you actually want. And you can also show you a way in which you can do it in an automated fashion. But before we do that, let's first talk about what actual advertisers are doing when it comes to scaling their campaigns and what's causing them to get the results that they actually are, which is hindering their ability to scale and get good ROIs and revenues. So most of the time, brands like to duplicate the campaigns, which are doing very well, and they think that by doing so, they're going to be able to get a duplication of the results that they're actually getting on their initial campaign. But the problem with this is that this causes a lot of issues when you start to scale up this duplicate campaign with the initial campaign, and it's what we call auction overlap, which can be a problem that I've seen in the brands that I've worked with in terms of how they actually start to scale campaigns which can't be scaled because they start to compete with each other. And what that means is that you're targeting people who have already seen your ad already, and you start to bid against yourself in the auction, which means that actually the cost of both of the campaigns are going to go up and other duplicates that you may have. And this can cause issues with your performance. So what we're going to do is actually not do this anymore and try and focus on actually getting the learnings that we have from the initial campaign. What we know from Facebook themselves is that you actually want to consolidate your campaigns and your ad sets and your ads as much as possible so you can get the most learnings. So you may be asking yourself, what is the right way to scale ad campaigns on Meta? Well, what you want to do is essentially forget about horizontal scaling and use this new method where you'll be able to get more learning from the current campaigns and better performance.
Okay.
Before we do that, I'd just like to quickly mention my consulting service, where it's one-on-one mentorship with me, where I'll show you how to actually run your Meta campaigns and help you to take it in-house so that you don't have to work with agencies or freelancers, which means you actually save money in the long run and you actually get better results because you know about your brand yourself. For example, I did it with this brand where we generated over 225,000 euros
A few moments later.
in a single month. And you can pretty much replicate the same thing using the strategies and insights that I have gained over the years. So if you're interested in that, then feel free to DM me on Instagram in the links in the description, and we'll see if you're a good fit. I have a dummy campaign here where we can go into more detail about how we're going to use this type of scaling strategy that's quite automated. So here we have a new sales campaign, and what I want you to do is to go to rules, and you want to go ahead and click here and click create a new rule. And in this section, we're actually going to create a custom rule because we want to have full control over how we are scaling and descaling the budget and the campaign. And because we're doing this, we're actually going to scale it by a certain percentage. And if we do this, then we have consistent scaling, which means that it's not going to be enter the learning phase again, but we're going to be able to scale quite well. So we're going to click custom rule. And in this situation, we're going to name it 10% increase. So 10% increase. Okay, this is scaling. And for the rule is going to be applied to this current campaign, and the action is actually going to be ad set actually. So it's going to be active ad sets in the campaign, and it's going to increase the daily budget. You want to click on the action, increase daily budget, and we're going to increase it by 10%. And in this section, we also want to add a maximum daily budget cap. Now, what does it actually mean? It means that when it does scale the budget by 10% or so, then it's going to keep on doing that to infinity if the conditions are met. So we actually want to put a cap on this if you have a limited budget for the month or the period, because if it continues to scale, then it's going to go over your budget, and obviously we don't want to do that. So in this example, we're going to set the maximum daily budget cap to, let's say, $500, and this is going to be once every 12 hours, for example, or you could do it once daily, depending on how aggressively you want to scale. Right, some brands want to scale aggressively because they have a lower budget, which is what they're starting from, or you may want to scale more slowly if you want to get it slow cook. So in this case, we want to actually once daily. So we're actually going to set it as that, and then the cost per result. Now this is dependent on what sort of cost per result you have for your product and for your brand. In this case, I would put $50. So if the cost per result is greater than $50, or actually less than $50, then this gives us the opportunity to scale because we're actually profitable at this point. So you want to add this, for example, and it's going to come up with this where it says lifetime impressions greater than 8,000. And the reason it does that is because it wants to prevent you from scaling too early because you don't have enough data there to show that it's actually reliable for you to scale. So it actually does this when you are not having enough spent in already. So you can also leave it as that, but you can also remove it if you want, just depending on how aggressively you want to scale, how impatient you are when it comes to scaling. So, and in time range, we want to set this potentially in the last 7 days. And this is very good if you want to look at the performance on a weekly basis, which I recommend. So when it does this, essentially, it's going to look at the period of the last 7 days. And if the cost per result is less than $50, then it will increase the budget by 10%. So that is what that means in terms of time range. And the schedule, now this is going to be essentially daily. So it's going to look at the cost per result every day, and it's going to determine whether or not it would scale the campaign by 10% at 12 a.m. the time of the account. And also, you can also set a notification, whether you want to get a notification of whether or not they've scaled the campaign by 10% via email or on Facebook. Now on Facebook, it's actually compulsory, but you can also get it to send to your email as well, so you're alerted. And that's essentially how that works. So now that we've done all that, we can pretty much create this rule, and we've pretty much got everything that we need. So now that we actually created this automated rule for this campaign, what's the actual benefits of this? Well, now that we've actually told Facebook how we want to scale the campaign, all it will do is actually do it for us. So it's actually automated. So you actually spend less time in the ad account, which means that you can spend more time on other things like creative, logistics, and so on and so forth. And because of this, it actually has a stop loss as well. So that if you're not actually meeting the cost per result target or maybe ROI target that you're looking for, then Facebook will automatically not continue to increase the budget. So that means that it's actually not going to overspend or pretty much waste your budget. So this is why this is usually the best method to go for when you want to scale the account. Now, this is only one side of the story and one part of the equation, because obviously you want to scale your campaigns and increase budgets, but what happens in a situation when you actually want to descale and lower the budget? Well, then you're going to have to pretty much do the same thing, but in terms of that, you'll be just decreasing the spend based on the cost per result or the ROI that you're currently achieving. So I'll quickly show you an account right now. And here we are in the ad account again. I'm going to show you with the same campaign how to actually create this automated rule where you can actually decrease the budget when the cost of purchase is too high or when the ROI is too high, low as well. So here you go again to create a new rule. And again, like we did the last time, you go ahead and create a custom new rule. And with this, we want to decrease the budget by 10%. So let's say that we are achieving a cost per result that is actually higher than we want it to be, then we can decrease the budget automatically. So we'll do this with the active ad sets in the campaign, and we're going to decrease the daily budget by 10%. And when we do this, we also can add a minimum budget floor, which means that what's the minimum budget that we want it to go down to when we keep on decreasing the budget, because we don't want it to go all the way down to zero. So we want to actually give it a minimum budget here. So in this example, I'll go ahead and give it a budget of 30 USD. So that if it keeps on decreasing the budget to meet our cost per result requirements, then it's going to go down to a minimum of $30. And the frequency, we can set this at once daily if we want it to descale quickly, or we can set it weekly if we want to be very slow and more of like a long-term play. So in this situation, I'm going to set it as once daily. And we're going to say that if the cost per result is actually greater than the $75, then we want it to decrease the budget by 10%. And obviously you can choose other things such as the website purchase ROI, which can be like another option for you if you're more concerned with that. But in this situation, we're going to use cost per result as the example. And in this case as well, we also have it pop up again with lifetime impressions above 8,000. And again, this is just to ensure that you're not changing the budgets when it's still in the learning phase or when it hasn't learned as much. So, and also in terms of the time range, we can do this. It will look at the data in a certain time frame, so you can determine whether or not to descale or not. In this case, I'm going to set it as the last 7 days. And in terms of the schedule, this is going to be when the machine does check for when they should descale. So in this case, you can set it as continuously. So this will be every 30 to 60 minutes. And but in this case, I'm going to set it as daily. And again, you're going to be able to choose whether or not you want to send a notification to email or not. So that is something you can do as well. But that's pretty much it. And then you just pretty much create the automated rule, and it'll be immediately be applied to that campaign. And voila, now you're covered on both sides. So now what we've done is we've had it set up in place where we can decrease the budget when the cost per result is too high, and once it goes down and it's low enough for it to increase the budget again, then essentially we're going to maintain a cost per result while scaling the budget and maintaining and almost guaranteeing that we're going to get an ROI, or the cost of result that we're looking for, which is very good when it means that it cuts down all the time you're spending in the ad account, and you can focus on other things, which is actually more important than increasing and decreasing the budgets, which you can get automation to do for you. So that is what we essentially done here. And this is the best way in order to scale your ad account in the easiest way possible and the most accurate way possible as well. Now, if you found this video helpful, then make sure to subscribe. And if you're a brand and you're looking to scale to these bigger numbers, then make sure to follow this strategy. But in order to do that, you're going to want to actually look at the structure of your account first. Otherwise, it's going to be problematic for you. So in this video, I'll cover the structure and how to scale your brand with very optimized structure. Have a look, check this video out.